All right, Coach Mingachos, thank you very much for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. Really do appreciate you taking the time, and especially this soon after the season and everything your program's been through this year, and some stuff we'll talk about a little bit later on. But thank you. Thanks for joining me.
No, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
All right, so head coach since 1997, so roughly 25 years. You were the women's coach for the longest time, and then in 2017, you became the men's coach. You had a lot of success on the women's side, and now you're having, obviously, and especially this particular year, like a tremendous amount of success. You know, and what's your experience been like, and how did you actually get to the spot you're in right now?
It's funny. It's been a long road. See, I went to school here. I played here. I was the first male All-American here in any sport. And after I graduated, I became the men's assistant coach under the legendary Wayne Moniz. And I did that for about 6 or 7 years. And then I remember in the springtime of 97, my athletic director called me and asked me if I was interested in taking over the women's program. Now, the women's program was only in existence, I think it was a third or fourth year of being a varsity sport. And when it was first offered to me, my initial reaction was thanks, but no thanks. I didn't have any experience in the women's game.
Right.
But sitting down, speaking to Wayne, he says, listen, I'm not going to be here forever. Take over the women's program, gain some experience. And then when I step aside from the men's program, you can take over the men's program. I was young. I was 27 years old.
Wow.
And I says, you know what? Let me do it. Let me get my feet wet. Let me gain some experience, and let me take over the women's program. So I did that. And I didn't expect to be there for 19 years. The men's position opened up here 3 or 4 times in that span of 19 years. But I was enjoying myself in the women's side. I was, as you says, I was very fortunate to have a lot of success on the women's side. And I always said no. Then back, 7 years ago, in around 96, 97, or I don't even know the dates.
2017, yeah.
My athletic director he was about to retire, and he goes, listen, I need to make a change in the men's program. We were struggling. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, we were one of the premier programs in New England. And we had hit hard times. And he goes, I want to offer you the men's job. I know what your answer is going to be. It's probably going to be no. And this time I didn't hesitate, and I said yes. And he goes, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Are you crazy or something? Why are you going to leave the women's program? And at that point, you know what? I wanted a new challenge. I wanted to rebuild the men's program. If anybody was going to do it, I thought I can do it. And if I couldn't do it, I was going to die trying. So I threw my hat in and I took over for the men's program.
You got somebody. Very good. You got somebody behind you. You got some
players.
Yeah,
some of my players are probably coming in to get the balls to go out on the field.
Well, that's impressive, right? Like they're still going. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, speaking of players, like having been a player, obviously on recruiting on the women's side, now spending time recruiting on the men's side, have players changed? Like, have they gotten better? Are they smarter? Are they more technical? Or are they the same? Do you think they're kind of... I guess I'm looking to see, have we made any progress?
Yeah, no, I think we've made progress in one way, and I think we've taken a step backwards in another. I think the players are much more experienced now because they play so much in their high school years and even before their high school years, whether it's with club, whether it's with academies, whether it's high school. I think that players are a lot more experienced now, if that makes sense. In the other way, their expectations of themselves are a lot higher, meaning that everyone feels like they should be on the field, everyone should be starting. I think we are still dealing with the aftermath of COVID, not only from a recruiting standpoint, but from a mental standpoint. And the players, even the kids that were in high school and even the kids that we did bring in that COVID year, they were greatly affected, not only from a soccer standpoint, but they were affected socially, and they were affected academically. I can tell you that fall of the height of COVID, even before that, when we went home for COVID, it was March. The kids were thrown from in-class participation to online.
Yeah.
Some of them never took online classes. So that was a culture shock. Also, not being around their teammates from a social aspect. And then when we got back in the fall, especially that freshman class, they were the ones that did come back to campus. They were thrown into their rooms and basically stayed in their rooms. Classes were all online. They were told when they could get lunch. Sometimes lunch was delivered to them at the front of their door. And that fall there was no soccer whatsoever. It affected them a lot, I think. And we're still trying to get through that. And then from a recruiting standpoint, it's very difficult because we're trying to juggle who's going to stay back and take their 5th year of eligibility, who's going to decide not to go, who do we recruit, how many numbers do we recruit. So, and again, it's not only Division III. I'm sure every division is going. And then another wrinkle that is thrown into this equation now is a transfer portal.
Absolutely.
So again, a lot has changed in a very short period of time. We're talking about, 2 years, 3 years? So a lot has changed within, the type of player that we're getting.
I think I've been thinking this for a while. I think the transfer portal stays now because I think it just sort of opened up an avenue for kids who like or not like where they're at and they want to play and they're throwing their hat in the ring. And so I think you're going to see a lot more mobility among the students and players. Do you recruit heavily through the portal? Do you get a lot of kids?
No, we don't. We're on the transfer portal. We like to look at it, but we haven't had much success, even though we did get a bunch of transfers. But the transfers are kids that are local kids that went away.
And they just want to come back.
And they want to come back. But it is, it's interesting. I was watching a college basketball game last night. It was Georgetown. And Georgetown's starting 5 were all transfers. And they rate now the transfer recruiting class of each school, and they were rated 4th in the country in the transfer. So it's like you're building an entire team all over again.
And I think, I think from a coaching perspective, I would think, hey, I wouldn't mind a transfer, I hate to say this, over a freshman. All things being equal, I would take a transfer over a freshman because at least the transfer has whatever experience and has been acclimated to the college game. No? Is that a fair statement?
Yes, in the short term, that's the great answer, right?
Yeah.
But for a program to be successful year after year after year after year, you got to bring in those freshmen to learn the program that you're going to hopefully have in your program for 4 years. One of my most cherished experiences as a coach is the consistency that I have from year to year to year to year. You can't have a group of 9, 10, 11 seniors out on the field 1 year and then try to rebuild an entire team. You're going to take a step backwards. That's, from what I believe. So you got to find that balance there. That, the year that we went to the Final Four on the women's side back in 2007, I did have 4 or 5, off the top of my head, transfers that really added to that team.
Right.
But in the same token, the rest of the team were, players that I recruited as freshmen.
Yeah. Where does just out of curiosity, where does most of your recruiting take place? Do you focus in on just Connecticut or like whatever your tri-state region would look like?
Yeah, we did for years and years focus on Connecticut because those are the in-state kids, in-state tuition.
Yep.
Now the university about 3 years ago instituted a program that anyone from New York and or New Jersey get in-state tuition.
Right.
So we opened up our recruiting out to New York and New Jersey. It was a tool that we could use.
Right.
But again, you need the man hours to get out there. You don't have a massive budget to hire assistant coaches that can devote their full-time lives to recruiting. We were very fortunate this year that we landed a kid from Florida. We also landed a kid from Michigan. So we've opened up our doors, but still the majority of our kids are from Connecticut. But we are still, getting a few kids New York, New Jersey. We're opening up our recruiting as much as we possibly can.
Which isn't Connecticut's not a bad thing, right? There's a great tradition of soccer in Connecticut, right? Not to depreciate that, right?
Absolutely. Connecticut has a rich tradition, has a lot of great players. We have a very ethnic state with a lot of Portuguese, Brazilians, Ecuadorians, Spanish, so we have that. That's, a big, but it's funny when you go play a Vassar or when you listen to a Williams or an Amherst, they got kids from all over the country, and you hear our roster, Connecticut, New York, Connecticut, so it's interesting.
No doubt. Obviously you go to some of the private schools like Vassar or Williams, they are, the country is their recruiting.
They have a national recruiting base where we're like you said, the tri-state area.
Yeah. Very good. Hey, do you? I mean, this just because we're on the topic, you're a public university, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Right, because you have in-state tuition, out-state tuition.
Yep.
Do you see in your experience the difference between players who are the players in the private schools versus the public schools? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I can't speak for anybody else. I can just speak for me and my experience here at Western Connecticut. If you want to, our kids are completely, I don't want to say completely, but a little different than the private kids. A lot of my players are first generation college students. Their parents didn't go to college. They might be the oldest sibling in their family. A lot of my players work full time. A lot of my kids pay for their own education. So from that aspect, this is an entirely new experience, not only for the players or the student athletes, but also for their families and their parents.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, I didn't even think of that either, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say in a bad way, right? They don't have a tradition of education, of, long history of family. Everybody's going to college. They're the tip of the spear, right? Sort of breaking new ground for their family.
Yeah, I'll use an example of one of my players, Philippe Dutra, who was the Rookie of the Year in our conference and also the Defensive Player of the Year in our conference. He is 22, 23 years old. He came to the country maybe 10, 15 years ago. Went to high school here at Naugatuck High School in Connecticut. And after his high school experience, what did he go do? He went and worked full time because that's what he needed to do to help his family, and that's what his family knew. After 4 or 5 years out of high school, he decided, you know what, I need to make a better life for myself and for my family and for my future. He decided to come to school. And it's not only Philippe that I can talk about. I have a great amount of players, that are like that. And that's the difference between us and maybe a private.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's the sort of thing I'm always curious about. Because actually, when I first started this, I didn't even think about inherent differences between a public and a private and all this stuff until a coach at a private school suggested I speak to the publics, and that's how I ended up speaking to the Steve Axtell at Cortland and realizing, right, like there's a substantive difference between the type of, I don't want to say players, right? I mean the students that attend a Western Connecticut versus a Tufts or comparable private school, right?
Absolutely,
private school.
Absolutely, and again, there is a big difference, but those are the kids that I love to work with, I love to help. My job isn't, so many parents come up to me after the game. Congratulations, thank you so much for what you're doing for it. Don't thank me now. Thank me after they graduate, because that's when my job is complete.
Yeah. I always say, probably I think at all levels, all Division 1, 2, 3, it's very much like that. But definitely Division 3, you're more than a coach, right? Like, I know early on in COVID, I always used to joke, like, what, you signed up to be a coach and now you're a therapist, you end up doing all, and you're a counselor and you're a job guy, like just.
A lot of people don't understand that during COVID, we worked harder than we ever did just to try to keep the guys focused, and try to keep them motivated. Let's be honest, in the Division 3 level, our job, probably 10% is done on the field. It's true. Everything else that we have to do off the field, whether it comes to academics, whether it comes to counseling them, whether it's holding their hand, whatever it is. I always tell my assistants, 10% of our time is spent in the day, on the field. You come in the office at 9 a.m. I know we train in the evening. So I'm in the office doing office work from 9 to 5. I'll go home for an hour or two. And then I'm out on the field either at 6, 7, or 8 o'clock for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours are spent. And even when I go home, my phone doesn't stop. Kids calling, hey, I need this, I need that. So, hey, listen, it is what it is, and that's what I love to do.
Yeah. The reward is being on the field, right? Like when you think about it.
No question. And, and for the players, the reward is playing games.
Yeah. Very true. All right, so let's shift over, because I'm curious. You were not, you were not impacted so much by this. You went 20-2. You tied only one game in the regular season that didn't have OT, but I've been very curious about all these the overtime changes. And in your experience against other teams, I mean, did you notice a difference in how teams approached games? Like, do you think, I guess what I'm getting at is, knowing that you're away, maybe not in your situation, but a team that you're playing that's showing up on at your field, that might not really stand a chance against you. Like, are they playing for ties?
You know what? I can't speak for any other coach, but
Right.
I don't know if anybody ever plays for a tie.
Right.
I did notice that some teams that we played sat back a little
Yeah.
bit more. I don't know if it was because they were playing for the tie or it was the strategy that they wanted to use against us. And I have no problem with that. I mean, you know, I want to say from a European state of mind that, you know, a tie is a tie. You know, I don't think we never go into a game looking for a tie.
Right.
I don't care who we're playing, what situation it is.
Yeah.
We're going to go and try to win the game.
Yeah.
For example, against Drew, we were down 1-0. We changed our formation the last 20, 25 minutes to a more offensive to get back into the game. Yeah. Once we got back into the game, I was like, hey, this is working. Let's not go back. Let's keep going and see if we can get the W. Yeah. With that said, I have no problem. In fact, I like the no overtime rule. It didn't change the way we played. Yeah. And it's never going to change the way we play. We're going to go into every game looking to win the game, and we're going to play our style. And if we lose, that means the other team played a better game than we did.
Yeah. Did you? So you're a proponent. You want to keep the no OT during the regular season? Yeah,
I have. Listen, I'm okay either way. But if you ask me, I would favor the no overtime rule. Yeah. But also, if you want my opinion, I would also do away with tournaments. Also, conference tournaments.
Really?
What I would love to see, and I know playoffs is an American thing. Playoffs are an American thing. What I would love to do is play a regular season in conference where you can play your conference opponents home and away.
Yep.
And have a true regular season champion like they do all over the world. You know, and that's where you get. I've always said this: when you go into a conference tournament, if you're the second seed or anybody below the second seed, you love the tournament. Yeah. If you're a number one seed,
you hate it.
You hate it.
Yeah.
You hate it.
Well, right, that's very true because all bets are off at that point. It's just one game, right? Like that's the way teams think that way. And I don't look. I like the excitement. That's interesting. You are the first person I've ever talked to that said they wouldn't mind getting rid of the conference tournament.
Yeah, if we could play a home and away
if we keep asking that, that's great.
You know, if we could play a home and away against all our opponents in conference, that's where you find in my opinion, a true champion because you're playing them at home and away. Yeah. You don't have the disadvantage of going away against a UMass Boston, or you don't have the advantage of playing an Eastern Connecticut at home. You know, for example, we could go 8-0 in conference, which we did this year, and sitting home at the end because we didn't advance on penalty kicks.
Yeah. So we're going to get into that now because all right, so let's pull the Band-Aid off.
Absolutely.
You know, you went 20-2. It's not official, but according to the Massey score, that ranks teams based on metrics rather than anything, you were rated 28th in the country. You were ahead of Gustavus Adolphus. I'm going to get butchered for this. Willamette, I still can't pronounce how to say their name. Lynchburg and Carnegie Mellon, to name a few. And you did not make the tournament. And so I'll just throw it to you. Your thoughts on that, and was there an expectation that you thought you would get in?
Okay, I'll give you a 2-tier answer for that one. We got to win it on the field.
Yeah.
Okay, we didn't get it done on the field. When it came to that one game.
Yeah.
And it's not like we didn't do it on the field. We didn't get it done on penalty kicks.
Yeah.
Okay? So again, in our situation with our conference, I don't know what the long history of our conference is, but I knew that we needed to get the automatic bid. Or it was going to get very difficult to get an at-large, no matter what our record was, no matter who we played. It just didn't happen. Now, when it comes to the tournament selection and who goes in and who goes out, that's way above my pay grade. I let the other people decide that with all the numbers and factions. But one of the things that I know, if you did the eye test and you watched our team play, I think you would consider us one of the teams that deserved to be in the tournament. With that said, you're talking, when you talk about the NCAA tournament, you're talking about a national tournament, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
But what it comes down to is the teams are picked regionally.
Yeah.
It's not picked nationally.
Yeah.
So if we were in a different region,
you would have been in.
We would have been in.
Yeah.
But because we're in the region that we're in, we didn't get in.
Yeah.
Put us in any other region, again, and again, where we're located, we are closer to Region 2 than we are to the region that we're in. It's more convenient for us from a travel standpoint, from a financial standpoint, to play teams from New York, New Jersey, the NJAC schools, the New York schools. It's a longer trip for us to play the NUMAC schools or the NESCAP schools. It's just, New York is 2 minutes from here.
You're right there.
We're right there, know. And again, some of the teams that traditionally we have on our schedule that usually are great teams and are great programs, they had a down year, and that's how it is in Division III. You schedule one way at the end of the fall, expecting something to be this way the following year, and it completely changes. For using us as an example, we're 20-0-2 this year. We're eligible to have everybody return. Can I guarantee you that everybody's going to return? Absolutely not. We can be a completely different team next year. Instead of being 20-0-2, we could be 10-10 next year.
Yeah. So I'm not going to be so diplomatic because I don't have to be. I think you guys got robbed. Like, I'll just say it. I appreciate the strength of schedule, and I appreciate who you're playing, but at some point you have to reward a team for doing what it does by going 20-0-2, because that is very, very difficult, even under favorable circumstances. So even if you play 20 games and they are the worst teams out there, right? But you still manage to go those 20 games in a 3-month season. That is very, very difficult to do. That's why it's very hard for teams to replicate at any given point. And I think there's got to be some room to reward that sort of performance, right? So that's my perspective. So I think you guys got robbed, but I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it and thank you. And again, it is, it is extremely difficult to go undefeated.
Yeah. Like I said, under any circumstance.
In any circumstances. no coach goes into a season expectant, thinking, oh, we're going to go undefeated.
Yeah.
You're going to get a slip up here
Yep.
or there, even if you're the best team in the country.
Yep.
And then, unfortunately, to have that slip up on penalty kicks makes it even harder. Listen, we played a very good Vassar team on the road.
Yeah.
They played 2 games in the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
They didn't lose either one of those games.
Yeah.
They advanced on penalty kicks. They lost on penalty kicks.
Yep.
We went on the road and played a very difficult Drew team that was very, very good.
Good. Yep.
We played Ramapo, who traditionally is a power in the NJAC.
Yep.
Got to the NJAC.
Yeah.
We played the Merchant Marines and we played
Yep.
Lehman, who were both automatic tournament teams.
Yeah.
We played a UMass Boston team that is very well coached, very difficult, that only lost to Tufts 1-0 in the NCAA tournament. So, like I says, did I think we deserved to be there? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I can handle it. It's my kids that don't understand it, that are devastated, that they didn't lose a game.
Yeah.
And they're sitting home watching teams. But that's life. You don't always get your way.
Yeah. So how are they doing? I mean, obviously dealing with it. I mean, it's a bitter pill, but...
You know what? We had our end of the season meeting, Monday. They're doing okay. They're still struggling a bit. One of my captains spoke, and it was very difficult after we lost our game on Saturday evening here. And he said, after he was feeling a little bit Monday, we got together to watch the selection show. And then it went all downhill. He felt all those same emotions, even worse after the selection show. Then he started feeling better by the end of the week, and then he started watching some of the NCAA games, and that pain came back. But once we had the team meeting, got all the group back together, he started feeling better. Listen, hopefully it's motivation for them. They're going to need some time to just, relax, take a seat back. They have to once again realize that they're student athletes, and they got to get back in to focus on their studies, and understand that I know it seems like it's a long time from now until we report to campus, to camp sometime in August. But with that says, it goes by pretty quickly.
Well, I will say I am impressed with the players who walked in to grab the balls before, right? That's very telling, right? You're a week out.
That's the thing, and that's the thing. The boys love to play. We got some tech ball tables out on the field. They love to play the tech ball. They'll go out and play. They're always coming in to get the stuff. So they know that everything that they need is here in the office. Knock on the door, grab the balls, do whatever you want. So, it's nice to see.
Yeah. All right, so let me ask you, was there a point in the season where you thought to yourself, wow, this is a really special group, from a soccer perspective, right? Like, this was a special group that you could see, like, hey, we could legitimately go undefeated all season, or were you just sort of game by game?
Game by game.
Yeah. Game
by game. Because like you said a little bit earlier, at any given point, if you turn yourself off, you can get a loss. You can get a loss so quickly. I don't know, I'm sure the guys, were focused or were thinking about an undefeated season. I never, ever thought about an undefeated season. I took it game by game. I focused on one game at a time. Parents would come, congratulations, when we were 12-0, and I go, listen, talk to me when we're 13-0. And that same parents came, talk to me when we're 14-0. Listen, I've been doing this for a long time. All of my teams, to me, are special in one way or another. Again, this team is very special for what they accomplished. There's not many teams that are going to be able to say we finished the year undefeated. You know, they won a regular season championship, but, you know, their ultimate goal was to get to the NCAA tournament, and they feel that they failed in accomplishing their ultimate goal.
Well, like I said, they were robbed. Look, you are one of three teams that did not have a loss, of four teams. Four teams that did not have a loss. Did not have a loss. And just because it's a technicality, but you actually tied that game against UMass that you lost in PKs, and that's how they're going to count it.
And we did beat them in the regular season.
Exactly. Like, you got robbed. I won't be.
It's a tough pill to swallow, but you know, we got to move on. We got to you know, try to get better, and we'll make some changes.
I am curious. One of the things I am curious about, and again, I look for the differences, right? Like, so you were on a 14-game winning streak until you tied Drew away. You opened by beating, like you said, a very good Vassar team that only got better as the season went on, and obviously made the NCAAs. It got 2 rounds in. You scored 43 goals. You only conceded 8 goals at that point. Was there anything about that Drew game that was different than your previous 14 games? Obviously, Drew's good. I'm not to take away from them, but when you look back, do you say, "Oh, we didn't do this, or we didn't do what we normally do, or we changed the way we played just because you thought you had to"? Or does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the Drew game, to be honest, was a positive thing for us. We were down 1-0. It was the first time in a long time that we were down a goal. And the way we recovered from being down, it almost lit a light switch in my players' heads that we got back into the game. And not only got back into the game, I thought we played one of our better games of the year against Drew to get back into the game. The speed of the game, Drew played, all the credit to them. They were a very good side. Going on the road to a team that we had never played against, playing in front of their fans under the lights in a very hostile.
I've been there.
Yeah, very hostile. And I say that in a good way.
Good way. Yeah. No.
Very positive, good way.
Yeah.
Against a very well-coached team.
Yeah.
So leaving that game, I felt very good. And seeing my players being upset that they felt they could have won that game. But I looked at it in a very positive way, that we came back from a 1-0 deficit, never gave up, and really played well after we went down 1-0. I thought that was a very positive and gave our guys a little more confidence to go through the rest of our season.
Drew is hostile. Yes, in a very they let you know they're there, you know, and the way that field is designed, you're sort of enclosed, right, all around. It is I could see why it would be a little unnerving, but okay. And then to UMass Boston, you beat them in the regular season 2-1. In the final, you outshot them 14-6. What was, and you obviously ended up losing in penalty kicks. Was there something about that game? Was it the ball just wouldn't go into the back of the net for you? Which there are games like that, you know what I mean? Like there's cellophane, or there's something, an invisible force field that keeps the ball out. I mean, was that the case, or? Well,
there's an old saying in Portugal, or in Portuguese, "Se não marca, sofres," which means if you don't score, you suffer.
Yeah.
And that's what happened that game. Jake and the UMass Boston team, Jake, their head coach, came in with a very good game plan. Their goalkeeper played a very good game. All the credit to them. We hit the post. We missed 2 breakaways, sitters, in my opinion. We missed a penalty kick in the run of play. In the run of play. So we didn't score. You don't score, you can't win. So again, credit to UMass Boston for the game plan that they came in with. And unfortunately for us, it was the only time all season that we were shut out.
Yeah, that's the thing I noticed. Like, you did not. That was the only game game where you ended up with no goals. Which that's why I said.
We played a good game. We had a great crowd in our favor. We had everything. We just couldn't score. Missed a penalty kick in regulation, and then you know what? Our goalkeeper that we went with in PKs made the first save of the first kick. When you do that, you're in position to win it. And unfortunately, penalty kicks, we worked on them all week. We went with our best shooters. It just wasn't meant to be.
Okay, so let me ask, knowing now sort of the result of this cracker of a season and the NCAA ignores you, where do you go from here? Like, not to say that next year you're going to go, maybe you do go 20-0-2 again, right? Like, hey, if the talent's there, you're going to do it. But do you change how you approach your schedule to sort of schedule tougher teams, which is hard? I know, I get all the difficulties to that, but what do you do? Do you keep, hey, we're going to keep proving ourselves every year until they can ignore us?
Yeah. When you have to remember, I've been here, 6 years or 7 years as a men's coach, minus the COVID year. I inherited a team that hadn't been to the conference playoffs in 10 years.
Wow.
Hadn't won a conference tournament in 12 years. And slowly but surely, we've been building the program back up, not only from a recruiting standpoint, but also from a schedule standpoint. Every year we add someone better than we had the year before. For example, this past year, we added the U.S. Merchant Marines, and we added Drew. 2 quality programs, one that went to the NCAA tournament. So every year we look to take strides, not only to bring in better players, but also build the schedule back up. I can guarantee you that we've already added one NESCAC team to the one we already had on our schedule, and we're very close to adding a third NESCAC team that's still in the NCAA tournament.
Wow. Okay. See, this whole YouTube site is just about breaking news. So that's okay. That makes sense to me. I get this is a long-term project. Like I said, it's not that I don't like the model of judging teams based on who they play and the strength of schedule and all that stuff. I just think there's got to be room for one of 4 undefeated teams.
Yeah,
right?
I'll go back to my previous point before. If it's a national tournament, we should be doing the national tournament, choosing it in a national basis instead of doing it on a regional. Because if you look, you put us in any other region,
you're in.
For example, if we were in Vassar's region, they'd probably take a look at head-to-head.
Yeah.
We'd probably get better. Not taking anything away from Vassar because, they proved they deserved to be there, and they played to be there. But that's the way, it is. And, if you looked at our regional rankings, I think we were ranked 7th. The 6 teams ahead of us were all from the NESCAC team, NESCAC. And in that last week of the season, we won and tied. The team or two teams ahead of us didn't play at all because they lost in the quarterfinals.
Yep.
We didn't move up at all. We stayed where we were. So, why play the games?
Yeah.
We play a full 20-game schedule. My guys love to play. I'm a firm believer that guys come to school to play games. They don't want to. They practice, but they want to challenge themselves and play games. Yeah. I was told by a coach this year, very respected Division III coach, the more games you play, the more it hurts you.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but that's what he told me.
But it's something I can get into. I could understand that, right? Like that makes sense to me. You would and I hate to you'd rather somebody. You're saying you can be 13-0-4 and make the tournament, and you be 20-0-2 and not make it, right? And you've played 5-6 more games than that team, and it doesn't. You're not rewarded.
No.
Yeah.
But if you ask any of my guys, what would you rather do? Play 15 games or play 20? And they're going to tell you 20 games. And again, practices are fun. That's where we get our work done.
Yeah.
But I love to sit on the sidelines and watch my team play, whether win, lose, or draw. I just love to see the guys play, and that's what makes them happy.
Yeah. Okay, so let me add one last question for you, and then I'll let you get on with your day. From a recruiting perspective, do you now have pieces of the puzzle that you're looking to replace, or is that's sort of the issue of, do you have guys who are going to come back or not for their extra year? How are you approaching your recruiting, and are there things that you're looking for specifically for your team?
Yeah, we're looking, one of the things that I would like to do with this team is you're always looking to get better. You come off a 20-0-2 season, you scratch your head and you say, how the hell are you going to get better than 20-0-2?
Yeah.
But there's always things that you can improve on. We would like to get deeper. We want to try to, improve a few positions. And we again, we got to work on trying to keep the team together, the core of the team together, from an academic standpoint, keeping them motivated, trying to keep them, I told them from day one that I would love for this to be a 2-year project, with this group of guys. At the end of the season, I told them, hey, I would love to run it back with you guys. So again, we're focused on trying to make us better, but also trying to keep the core of this team together and see if we can run it back with this group of guys. We're going to do, me and my coaches, we're going to work as hard as we always do to improve the team. But, we want to try to keep this team together and try to run it back and see if we can this group can finally reach their ultimate goal of qualifying for the NCAA tournament.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, Coach. Thank you very much for your time. Really do appreciate it. This was a great conversation. Maybe we could connect again, sort of, before the next season, and get an update as to where you're at, and talk about the preseason. Love talking about the game. So
thank you for having me. And once again, whatever you need, you know how to get a hold of me. I'm always available to speak to you and to be on this show.
Yeah, and congratulations to your boys. Shout out to them. There are people who watch who were duly impressed, so including myself.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I will let them know.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.